The next project that we're going to do on remote learning is called a found object sculpture. And when you go on to Google Classroom, you'll find this piece of paper that says found object sculpture at the top. And it goes about telling what we're going to do and how we're going to do that. And that's what I'm going to do in this video right now. So the first thing that you really want to know is you want to know what is a found object sculpture. So what I did was I went on to the internet and I got some different pictures of found object sculptures. So you can see this one is made up of line. I think those are red straws, or there are straws and they covered them with red. This is just paper, cut paper. And this one are some sticks from outside. They took the bark off of them, so they made them shiny. And this one's just made up of toothpicks right here. When you're dealing with line, a lot of the sculpture is going to actually be about the negative space rather than just the line. So even though this is made up of line, and this is made up of line, and this is made up of line, the background space is just as important as the actual lines. You're looking at that background space, you're looking at the spaces that you are forming by enclosing that space in the line. This one is not as evident as it is in these three, but it still is a factor in this one as well. These are also sculptures in the round, which means that you can turn them and they should look good on all sides, or if these were gigantic, you could walk around them. We haven't done that yet. We haven't done sculptures in the round. We've only done relief, but you know, if you were in class, we would have been working towards the sculptures in the round. Here's some more examples. I really like this one. It's fun, it's amusing. You can make just about anything from newspaper or paper and tape it up nice and tight and then put a coating and outside skin of some sort with the Reynolds wrap. So make sure that you ask your mom or dad if it's okay if you use the Reynolds wrap, because you know we can't just run out to the stores. You can only use what we have at home and that there's plenty of. This one right here, I thought this one was really, really cute, but the reason why I put this one on was because it was made out of utensils. And I have had kids in the past use plastic utensils to make things like this, and they have used heat to heat up the utensils, the plastic utensils, to get them to bend. I would like you not to do that. When you heat up plastic, it's really bad for your lungs, and it's especially really bad for your brain as well. So do not heat up any type of plastic to bend it. This one I thought was interesting. It's made of different sponges. It's very, very colorful. I thought it would be a good tie-in. You might have some games that you had when you were younger, and you still have the boxes of them. It has tons of pieces in it, but not enough pieces to play the game. You could use your game pieces to make a really cool, exciting, colorful type of sculpture with it if you would like. And it would already have a theme because it would be about the games that you played when you were a little kid. This one right here is made of paper. It's pretty detailed. This one is super, super simple with a little bit of wire and a little bit of the corks from wines and the tops of bottles, some bottle caps. I think you're a little bit beyond this, but still it might give you an idea of something else that you could do that would be a little bit more advanced. You are welcome to take something that is pristine, and because you don't want to put any glue or you don't want to put any holes in it to hold it together, you are welcome to do something that you could put back into the closet afterwards or put back away afterwards. So that's why I put this one on. I thought it'd be kind of interesting. Maybe if you have little brothers or sisters, you could dress them in the same color and you could arrange them different ways and take the photos of them in those positions, and that would be your sculpture. Okay, so you can do that. You can do that with clothing. You can do that with people if your mom and dad say it's okay. You could do that with any toys that you have or any type of equipment that you have without having to drill any type of holes or make any glue marks in it. You can do something that is decorative if you would like. So a necklace would be fine. You could do a wall hanging. It could be crocheted. It could be knitted. You could add things to that to make your sculpture, and that would hang on the wall or hang onto a person. And then this one is a relief one, and this is the one that we have been working on most in class, where we did the drawing into the metal and the balsa foam, where the sculpture is only looked at from the front, not all the way around. So hopefully now you understand kind of what I'm talking about when I'm talking about making a found object sculpture. So what are you going to pass in to me? You are going to pass in the 4 photographs of your sculpture, and then there's also going to be a writing prompt, so a written response, and there are the questions on the bottom right here that tells you what you're going to write about. And you're going to pass that in through Google Classroom. Why are we doing this right now? I would like to do this smaller project because what's going to happen in the future is I'm going to ask you to create an environmental sculpture, and that's going to be an outdoor sculpture where it will be larger and more complex. And then for your final exam, I'm going to ask you to do a more complex found object sculpture. Okay? All right, where do you start? First of all, you have to find some junk, some found objects. So you can look in all different types of places. I know that I always look in my junk drawer first. Most houses have a junk drawer. You can use different types of packaging. You can use broken tools or broken equipment. So as I went around my house and I was trying to find different things, this is the box of items that I ended up with. So discarded type things, packaging types things, some straws right here. These are beautiful lines. Paper plates. These are really cool because they not only have a shiny surface, they also have a shiny surface that doesn't have anything on it, and they have a shiny surface that has some lines on it, and then on the back side it's a matte surface and it has the lines on it. So it's super, super simple, but you can make something really interesting just from paper plates alone. My tin foil, I didn't have to ask anybody because it's mine. Some more lines. I really like these because it's all about line, but it's also about negative space. And one of the interesting things I think about this is that it's also about mass. So even though it's not heavy, when you were to pass this to somebody else, they would expect it to be heavier. And anytime something is not what we expected, we have a tendency to become more interested in it, more involved in it. And that's why I thought these were really cool. I also thought that they were kind of reminiscent of the artist Magritte. Magritte used to do paintings that had to do with how differently you might want to see something. So obviously the mountain is very, very heavy. It shouldn't be floating in the sky. And the same thing with this guy right here. So it is about mass. Mass is one of the words on the sheet that you have. It doesn't have to be a rock to be about mass as well. Okay, so these are my objects. And then I'm just gonna put them back in the box. And I'll tell you where I first started and then where I went from there. So when I first started off, this was my favorite piece. And I really liked it because I thought that I could probably make something that looked like my schnauzer. So when I looked at it, I was like, oh yeah, this could totally be, has characteristics of a schnauzer. So this dog looks just like my dog Winston, a black schnauzer. And if you see, you can see where he has the big chest and the little butt, and it would be perfect to start the basic part, his torso, of making him. And I also really liked it because it was super colorful, and Winston is very, very happy, very outgoing. He never met a stranger. He has a ton of energy. So this would be kind of like my plans. This is this container right here. Now I have to find parts that are going to be his legs and his tail and his head. So at that point, this is where it kind of fell apart for this particular project. I didn't have anything to make his legs with or his head with. I could have went outside and I could have gotten some sticks and things like that, but sticks don't really communicate the bubbliness, the outgoingness that Winston is. So I thought, well, if I can't make Winston and other parts that are super, super colorful, then I have to think of something else to do with the junk that I had. So even though this was my favorite piece and I thought, oh, it's gonna be totally cool to make Winston out of, I can't make Winston because I don't have the pieces that would go well with him. So what I decided to do was, I was just gonna go with that piece of found object that was the cheapest, that I knew a lot of people would have, and that had some really cool characteristics like the shininess and the line and the matte finish and the lines on this side. And then I just started cutting and cutting. I had quite a few of these pieces, and I just cut them up into other pieces. And then I tried to start to put them together into a sculpture. So this is what I ended up having at the end. So this is my sculpture at the end. And I'm just gonna kind of turn it so that you can see different sides of it. And it definitely has more of a back. Although it looks interesting on the back, it's not as interesting as it is on the front. Because I was having a hard time getting it to stand, I would say that it has become something that I would hang rather than something like that, rather than having it standing by itself, because I could not get it to stand. When I first started off, I thought, how can I get these pieces of paper plates together? How about if you don't have any glue at home, for example, and you only have tape? And so I started off with this piece, and to get them to stay together, because I thought maybe you will only have tape, you won't have anything else, I thought, oh, I'll use these straws. So you can see where the straw goes through into the other piece, so I have some negative space right here. And then I did have to use some tape in order to hold that into place. But by putting that on, I decided, well, I can use those straws in other places as well. So not just to hold the piece together, I could use them to be the area of interest as well. So I think it came out kind of interesting, kind of cool. I like it. It is definitely about line. It is about space, the negative space and the positive space. It has a great little area of interest. It has some cool movement to the area of interest. I think those are the best qualities about it, and it actually is still kind of holding together, which is also kind of a neat thing. So from something that was pretty much nothing, just a paper plate, a thin paper plate, I was able to make this sculpture. So this is what I would take 4 pictures of. I would take it from the front, I would take it from the side, I would take it from the back, and maybe I would take a picture of the area of interest. It will be up to you as to what you want to send to me, just so that it looks the best. You always want to take photos of it so that it looks the best. And then you're going to do a written response. And the written response, you're going to talk about the challenges that you had. So for example, my first idea, which was to do Winston, I could not do it because I didn't have the other pieces that would go along with him. So I had to change what I wanted to do. I also had to figure out a way to get the pieces to stay together with the assumption that you may not have glue, you may have tape, but you may not have glue. So that was another way that I problem solved or met a challenge with this particular one. What elements or principles is it all about? As I said before, it's about line, it's about negative space, it's about emphasis, it's about movement, which is called movement and rhythm, and those are all on your paper that will be on Google Classroom. And then lastly, I would like you to think of a title for it. So originally I called it something with fish, like fancy fish or something, because I thought when you did it from one side, it kind of looks like the tail of a fish and the eye of a fish. But I thought it's way too sophisticated to call it just that. So then I decided to call it Picasso's Bearded Man. So if you know Picasso, you know he takes different parts of an object and he moves them all over. So to me, this kind of looked like an eye and this kind of looked like a beard. And I just thought that was a more creative way of naming it. Okay, so that is your project. You have 2 weeks to do it, which should be plenty of time to do it. You're going to pass it in on Google Classroom. When you pass it in, you're going to have your 4 photos of your piece of artwork. You're going to have your written response, and in your written response, you'll be talking about your challenges, you'll be talking about your elements that are evident within your piece of artwork, and you will be naming your piece of artwork as well. Okay? I can't wait to see them. Thanks.